President Trump today accused Iran state media of spreading fake news after there were leaked supposed details of a U.S. Iran proposal to end the war. The president called off new strikes on Iran, saying Iran's ready to sign onto a 60-day deal for wider negotiations. A White House official is saying that Iran will have to agree to several terms, including to destroy and remove its nuclear material and dismantle its nuclear program. It gets no money from sanctions relief without full compliance. In fact, just moments ago, the vice president said no money is going to Iran. And it must keep the Strait of Hormuz open and end funding of terror groups. Here's more from President Trump.
How confident are you that there will be a signing this weekend? Because you have come close to sealing a deal, but at the last minute it has fallen apart. And
it'll be soon, maybe this weekend.
And has the Supreme Leader approved this deal, sir?
I understand the answer is yes.
And when this deal is signed, is the United States going to immediately lift the blockade?
Yes, that's true. That's part of the deal.
And we have new images from Central Command showing the U.S. military enforcing that blockade of Iranian ports. Navy warships, air assets have redirected at least 136 commercial ships and disabled 9 others that did not comply. General Jack Keane on the importance of a deal that keeps Iran in check long term.
We have to be very clear-eyed about what's happening, because what the Iranians say and what they do are two different things. No matter what they sign as a final deal, at some point they will do everything they can to reverse it. That is who they are, and that is predictable. Negotiators know that, so what we have to bake into the deal is the prevention of their ability to reverse a deal post-Trump presidency.
All right, and real quickly, the vice president on his X page, quote, the Iranians are not receiving any cash and no funds are being released for simply signing a deal or attending a meeting. So that has happened this morning. Lucas Tomlinson, you're with me now with more from the White House. Lucas.
Good morning, Harris. President Trump says he believes Iran is close to signing this memorandum of understanding to begin dismantling its nuclear apparatus. But then hours later, Iran fired 2 drones into the Strait of Hormuz, targeting commercial shipping. Both those drones shot down by U.S. forces. And President Trump taking to Truth Social this morning to offer some more information. I'll read it for you, Harris. It says the terms that Iran leaked out to the fake news have nothing to do with the terms that were agreed to in writing. What they said, including their weak and pathetic statement on having a deal, bears no relation to the truth. Very dishonorable people to deal with. With them, there is no such thing as dealing in good faith. Amazing. Also, their totally rebuffed drone attack last night against Indian ships leaving the Hormuz Strait is totally unacceptable. They better get their act together and fast. Now, Iran's foreign minister posting on X saying he thinks his country is close to a deal, saying the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding has never been closer. Pending its finalization, the media should refrain from entering speculation about its content. In line with our responsible and transparent approach, all details will be shared with the public in due course. President Trump also appeared optimistic yesterday, as you heard in the intro.
This is a different group. This is a different level, and I think it's, frankly, a smarter level, and it's a level that has reason. And they've all approved the deal. Everybody's approved the deal.
So President Trump says everybody's approved the deal. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance taking the X, quote, the deal is structured to ensure that the U.S. and its allies' concerns are prioritized, and that if the Islamic Republic of Iran meets its obligations, then economic benefits will flow to them and to the entire region. This deal has the potential to remake the region and lead to lasting peace. The president is going to get us a good outcome one way or another. And a senior administration official this morning emphasized there will be no money up front to this deal. First, that enriched uranium has to come out of the country and be destroyed. Harris?
Lucas, before I let you go, I want to say thank you. You were with me yesterday during that Pentagon scare as they were trying to figure out a mysterious odor. They got the all clear, and we thank the good Lord for that. You did great reporting, and you answered the call when we really needed you. So thank you.
Thank you, Harris.
Well, in focus now, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub. He served as a Black Hawk helicopter pilot and a battalion commander. Look, my number one question today is how long do we leave all of our military personnel in that region through this back and forth and then potential, I guess it's like a longer ceasefire, like a 60-day long ceasefire. This one's been pretty shaky, so they can't go home.
Yeah, Harris, it's a great question, and I've described this as watching like a slow motion car wreck that where you know the inevitable result, what it's going to look like. But it certainly seems to be long and drawn out. Again, this is how Iran uses their delay tactics, and it's no surprise. I guess if it were me right now, I think I would tell Iran that they have until a specific date and time to sign the deal. And then say all consequences will occur after that. That way they can stop playing this game of, well, it's going to be soon, or it'll be 60 days, or it'll be 30 days. And then just put a hard date and time on it. They've negotiated this in such depth that there shouldn't be much left to cover. Now, either do it or don't, and give it a hard date and time to do so.
What makes us think, or anybody think, as I look at this, I certainly don't think this, that if they can't even get through to the point where they pause for an extra 60 days, how can we trust them to do what it takes in the long term?
No, you can't. And that's part of the challenge of having lived there in the Middle East and Central Asia for quite a number of years, as well as my peers in the military who worked in similar jobs and functions over there. You learn very quickly that deception is part of the plan. It's always baked in for them, and that this is really par for the course. I wouldn't trust anything that they say. I wouldn't trust anything they sign. And even if something does get signed, which, fine if they do, hopefully it does and it's effective. But if there isn't a sufficient enforcement and oversight mechanism to make sure that everything is abided by, it's just going to be a piece of paper that will as likely get shredded as it get followed.
Look, I understand fully the calculus around their neighbors there don't have the defenses. I know that the UAE from Israel got a Golden Dome support system, but those other countries really can't defend themselves. And we've already seen Iran isn't necessarily just going to come after us. They're going to hit those close-in targets. So that has to be part of this wider calculation. So maybe in the meantime, we can help them build up their defenses in some way. Kharg Island is key to this conflict, and it certainly became a focus yesterday. It's Iran's main oil export hub, handling an estimated 90% of its crude exports. And President Trump said yesterday that he would abandon a proposal to seize that strategically important island if Iran were to sign a deal. Here's Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg.
You have to play really hard to bring him to the negotiation table. And President Trump has done that, not only with military force, but when he made the comment today, for example, taking Kharg Island, which is their economic hub, he sent a real clear signal. He said, I am going to destroy you if this thing does not get resolved. And we've got to give him great credit for that.
Your reaction?
Yeah, I think Kharg Island is clearly a strategic location that is a great point of leverage for us should we choose to take it. Now we have to approach something like that with great risk analysis and make sure that it is actually something that, one, we can accomplish, two, we can hold, and three, it wouldn't put our people at significant risk by making them occupy a fixed target versus where they are now, which is shipborne and mobile, which makes them a lot harder to hit. I don't know, maybe this is a negotiating tactic to threaten it, even if there's no necessary plan to follow through with it. But Iran is really collapsing in many ways economically, and that seems to be the best way forward. In fact, that's what caused some of their the riots and protests in the streets back earlier in the year was the economic consequences of their decisions, not necessarily the military price that the IRGC and their leadership had paid.
It's interesting. I haven't heard anybody say that we couldn't take that island. And what you're saying is, what do we do to calculate the risk? It's war. Good to see you. I'm so glad that you were here to kind of break everything down, and we will continue to cover it as always. Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.